Listen to old Screech Owl screech. Down in his house in the big gray beech, Mr. Coon went there to dine, but stuck his mouth with porcupine. Swinging on a grapevine swing, hear old Redbird's whistle ring. Hear him cry, good cheer, good cheer. I live in Jean's woods all the year. Mr. Rattlesnake down in the grass won't let Mud Turtle pass. Turtle bit a diamond off his back. Guinea on the fence cried, rack, pot rack. Old Miss Swallow wanted a drink. Black Bass gobbled her quick as a wink. Kingfisher, watching from an old dead tree, laughed, ha ha, you can't beat me. Mrs. Field Mouse found a great big hole dug in her house by Miss Ground Mole. Look what you've done, she cried in surprise. Look, said Miss Mole, without any eyes? Oh, friends, you've caught me. I'm reading one of my favorite books, Morning Face, to an old friend here. We love to read our stories. Morning Face is a book written by Jean Stratton-Porter. Now, she wrote at the end of the 1800s, early 1900s. But, Morning Face is a collection of stories that she used to tell her granddaughter when she'd get up early in the morning. They'd sit on this little bench they'd made. It was just a piece of wood pressed between two trees. I think there's a picture of it here. And she'd tell these stories to her granddaughter. And here's a picture of the granddaughter. And then eventually she wrote them down as a little remembrance and published them. This book has been particularly hard to find, so I was glad when I found it. I grew up reading Jean Stratton-Porter books. My sister gave them to me probably when I was like 10, 11, 12, maybe that age. Now, she's a sister that I didn't grow up with, and she's not biologically related to me in any way. But she came into my life when our parents married, and she didn't have to take me under her wing. She was already married. She already had a little daughter of her own. But she took me under her wing, and she filled me with these beautiful stories. She would get me Nancy Drew books because I loved figuring out the mysteries. And all of these great books. Jean Stratton-Porter was actually a naturalist, and so she had all these great stories about the animals in the woods, and sometimes it was about people living in the woods, and it just filled my heart and soul up with beauty. I didn't have a great life around that time, and those books filled my life with beauty, which is why we're talking about them today. We'll get to the whole point by the end of the week, but part of it is filling children's lives with beautiful stories. Nowadays, books can be so cheap that they can get it at school, and they may be good for teaching kids to read, they may be good for this or that, but I don't know that they're filling their lives with beauty anymore. I mean, Captain Underpants doesn't sound like beauty. Here was another old favorite of mine. I've got tons of antique books. A lot of them were my parents, or they were in my grandparents' collection, uncles. Once they found out I liked this age of books, I got them all the time. I have to say I love Jerry Muskrat. And again, I worked as a naturalist for a little while and studied nature myself. It's just beautiful, like this section. The merry little breezes who were here, there, and everywhere told him all that was going on, so that when he saw Jerry Muskrat and Little Joe Otter swimming towards him, he knew that they were coming for, but he pretended to be very much surprised when Jerry Muskrat very politely said, "Good morning, Grandfather Frog." "Good morning, Jerry Muskrat. You're out early this morning," replied Grandfather Frog. "If you please, you are wanted over at the big rock," said Jerry. Grandfather Frog's eyes twinkled, but he made his voice very deep and gruff as he replied, "Chug-a-rum. You're a little scamp, Jerry Muskrat, and Little Joe Otter is another. What trick are you trying to play on me now?" They're just good-natured, fun, filled with the beauty of nature, and you learn the characteristics of different animals when you read the stories and poems about them. Now, these books, Adventures of Jerry Muskrat, were written by Thornton Burgess, and their whole collections have been reprinted. So while my copy is probably fairly old and a little bit falling apart, I do have some other ones. Oh my goodness, this somebody got... they have from Somerdale, PA, and they have their name and their year they got it, everything carefully written in there. She got it in 1975. I feel like, yeah, this is a 1942 edition, originally copyrighted in 1914. But again, this is the 1942 edition I have. And there were other books like Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates. A lot of Louisa May Alcott, ones that aren't even popular now, that I had read as a child because my mother had loved them so much. And you're thinking, those books are fine for littles, but what kind of books were older kids read? I would challenge you, as a girl, and I know boys love these as well, the My Side of the Mountain books by Jean Craighead George. Her books are so lovely. This is a boy who, and I'll read from the back. Sam Gribley is terribly unhappy living in New York City with his family, so he runs away to the Catskill Mountains to live by himself. And it tells you how he only has a few things, but he tries to make it through the winter. And again, a lot of it has to do with nature. He's raising some things. Just the descriptions in the book, the language they use is so beautiful. We don't use that language now. Even shows you how to make a little whistle out of a, is it a willow branch possibly? I think, yeah, willow whistles. I love that. And this book has been made into a movie, but I still prefer the book. Bird, I said, I had almost forgotten how we used to talk. She made tiny movements with her beak and fluffed her feathers. This was a language I had forgotten since Bando came. It meant she was glad to see me and hear me, and that she was well fed and content. I picked her up and squeaked into her neck feathers. She moved her beak, turned her bright head, and bit my nose very gently. Jesse Coon James came down from the trees for the first time in 10 days. He finished my fish dinner. Then just before dusk, the Baron came up on his boulder and scratched and cleaned and played with a fern leaf. I had the feeling we were all back together again. If you want your child to connect to nature, besides taking them out in nature and getting them gardening and hiking, these books are just beautiful. So if there's a rainy day or it's too cold to go, bitter cold to go out, curl up with one of these good books. Read them to your kids when they're little and let them read them as they're older. Now that was Jean Craighead George, who was probably writing, I feel like in the 70s, and there's a series of these books. They're all beautiful. Let me guess. Oh, it was originally in 1959, so I was a little off. This edition was 88. I found when my son was young, Gary Paulsen, and his start out with a boy. He's flying out in a plane, and the pilot has a heart attack, and the boy lands in the wilderness. This is started in 1996, and this is done by Scholastic. I don't know if it was originally, but it tells you how the boy survived in the wilderness. And there's a whole series of these. Survival books are especially popular with young men. And why? Because it speaks to that manliness in them. How are they going to survive? That coming of age ritual. So these books are just wonderful for that age range. They are wholesome books. I can't remember anything unwholesome in them. Let's see. And he had just made his own snowshoes here. And it kind of tells you a little bit how he was doing it. It was amazing, he says. The snow was powdery, and the shoes didn't keep him right on top as he thought they might. But he only went down 3 or 4 inches and stopped, instead of his foot going all the way down into 2 feet of snow. And as an added benefit, the snowshoes kept the snow away from his feet and legs. So something that can be really fun to do is to read these books and then go to your local nature center, or if you have a local crafts person nearby that knows how to do these, and you actually make your own snowshoes from branches off trees, and go out and walk on them in a snowy day, and you can live some of these skills. And it builds a young person's confidence to be able to do these. And it's like reading the Little House on the Prairie books. And there's some things in there that are a little bit, if you've only ever watched the TV show, you might be surprised at some of the things in the book. So just know that, and you might want to read ahead if you're going to read them to kids. But those books are so great for a cozy winter night. If you can, build up a fire in your fireplace or whatever you've got, even if it's a gas log fireplace, and curl up and read those books, and then try some of the activities that people in the books are doing, whether it's cooking a dinner in one pot or a cast iron pan, or braiding a rug, making a doll out of a pillowcase, building snowshoes, building your own fire, having the young boys help you gather the supplies for making the fire. Both boys and girls in different ways, they get so encouraged by doing these things because they're doing things that pioneers and self-sufficient people did. And it is encouraging and builds your confidence that you would be able to do those in your time too. And these are true and beautiful things, and you're building virtues as well as skills. And that's what I wanted to talk to you today about with storytelling. As we go on through the week, there's going to be other lessons, and we'll get to the big point at the end. And I think you're all going to get it and go, aha. But for now, this is the reason we use stories. Like some of the stories in Morning Face, I'll tell you, talk about Mother Nature and how she set up her beautiful home on Earth. And they are allegories. You can be completely honest with your kids and tell them, the story of creation where God made everything. But a lot of people, talk about Mother Earth, right? And so this is why, because you can understand if you talk about Mother Earth decorating her house, or Mother Nature decorating her house, which is earth, you kind of understand where people say, okay, yeah, moss is like carpet. So it's a way to teach people, and kids are going to kind of start getting that, right? From those beautiful stories. They're going to say, oh, right, so nature teaches us, reveals some things about God to us. Like when they want to learn how the cardinal got his red coat. This is probably an adorable story that has nothing to do with how Jesus made the cardinal. But it's going to start telling them, let's look at these animals. What is their form? What is their function? What is their purpose? And it's going to start leading kids up to theology of the body and really studying. If you ever study natural history, it's a beautiful course. I know Mother of Divine Grace and other classical schools tend to offer that like 8th, 9th grade, sometimes as late as 10th. And that is going to teach you how to be really observant in nature and how nature is a way that God reveals himself to us. He reveals himself to the Bible, but he reveals himself in little bits, gives us little hints in nature that led us to that. Well, I guess I'm kind of spilling the beans a little bit already, but it's why storytelling is so important. And it's so important what stories you tell your kids and how you tell them. Don't just give them a tablet or a notepad, a notebook, and let them watch videos on YouTube or whatever without you, because you're missing a great chance for dialogue where they'll be able to really understand what's going on in the book. If you really want to build kids' comprehension, read it with them. Oh, I thought of some great books I can show you tomorrow, and you're going to love them. They're so great and wonderful for kids for developing. I'm going to run now, and I'm going to grab those books and set them out so we can talk about them tomorrow. And just what the purpose of them is. I'm really loving this topic. I hope you are too. If you've got a favorite story that you use to build a strong foundation for your kids, feel free to put it down below. God bless, friends. Don't forget, if you want to share this video, if these videos help you at all, get out there. You need to like that video, because by liking the video, YouTube knows that it's a good video, and then it's going to start sharing the video more and more. And subscribing is going to let you know when I have a new video released. And if you ring the bell, it's going to ding right on your phone to let you know. Otherwise, it won't show you until you go into YouTube and sign into your account. So don't forget, like, share, subscribe, put stuff down in the comments. If you have a favorite book that you think helped form you as a child in a good and beautiful way, let me know, and we can talk about it later this week. God bless, friends. Bye.